Remove the two nuts that retain the LOS valve. Place a mark on the actuator and the spacer block. Use a 4mm Allen on the back bolts. Pull the actuator out to get access to the other bolts. Rotate actuator to get access to those bolts. Slide complete assembly out. Leave the one screw in that's difficult to remove. Use a small flat-headed screwdriver to push on the gasket and get it to bunch up, and then you can pull it out. Make sure you do not touch that screwdriver to any of the metal surfaces. Again, use the screwdriver to push on the gasket to get it to bunch up, where you can then grab the bunched part of the gasket and pull it out. If you got a little scratch in the base of that groove, you could cause a leak. Big warning, if you scratch the inside of that interface, you have to replace the whole thing. This has some residue from the heat, and so remove with acetone. Remove cones. Dispense all the provided grease into an area to work with. Use grease to lubricate new seal. The cross section of these O-rings are an X, so make sure when you add the grease to try and get it in all the grooves. Spread grease on both sides of the LOS plate. This is a special high temperature vacuum grease. Apply grease to the actuator gasket. Best to line up the holes now because it's difficult when you have it in place. Apply grease to the X gasket that goes into the interface and install. Clean up remainder grease. Put bolts through the gasket to hold in place. Be very careful with these bolts. Do not over tighten them because you can actually deform the gasket and create a new leak. The trick is using a very small handle on the screwdriver so you cannot over tighten these. If you see the gasket at all squishing out, you know you've overdone it. Line up your marks. Insert the back bolts. Since these bolts do not have a gasket between them, you cannot over tighten them, so go ahead and make those snug. Equally tighten both sides of the LOS retainer ring. This one should be tightened pretty tight or you will get a leak. Getting it as tight as you can with a handle of the same diameter. This is the alignment of how it looks in place. To start, we got to go in a little bit opposite with tubes towards the top. Pass them into the opening, tilt it slightly, and then once through the opening, rotate counterclockwise. Make sure that the actuator can drop in over here to the right. And then once in place, put in one of the top bolts. Hold up the entire unit until you get one screw in. As you put in each screw, just take them to slightly snug. As you finally tighten them, you do it like lugs on a tire, so opposing bolts to get them tight, alternating back and forth in a star pattern. Finish up by going around in a circle to make sure they're all snug. Turn on the argon and then use that pressure to have the LOS go in and out a few times. Make sure not to push the hose all the way on until you're done. As the LOS opens and closes, make sure you don't have any extra grease around the opening. Once it all looks good, go ahead and put the back pipe on with the blue marking. Install the water lines, making sure that they are only hand tight. Once the lines are on, check after chiller turned on that there are no leaks. Sensor connections can be connected either way. Connect the vacuum hoses.